What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world, but keep the sky on your mind.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Dan, is my voice coming over this time?
I believe so. I can hear you.
All right.
My little bars
All right.
are moving, so I think we're good.
Sounds good. All right, guys. So welcome to another FPVFC Town Hall. Just a little technology check there after our last incident. With us tonight, we've got Alex, Dan, Dave, and myself, and we've got quite a bit to cover tonight. So let me go ahead and get this shared. And our first little segment here is going to be coming from a friend of FPVFC. We've known him for a long time. This is coming from Vic Moss, and this is in relation to a request for public comments on essentially drones and the reliance on drones for reliance on China for drones and drone parts. So he says this request for public comments is an interesting one. It seems to combine defense with private sector and has some interesting push-pull type questions. Those questions assume some things that aren't proven, and its focus is about the economic impact of this supposed national security issue. The BS in the title, and he's calling this the BIS BS, stands for the fact that since whack-a-mole in DC was already taken by another article, it's just a continuation of the bovine scat this industry has to put up with time after time. When one political door is closed due to pushback or common sense, those with an unhealthy obsession with DJI and those U.S. manufacturers who can't compete with DJI and have political clout will try and open another one. There's also some very noticeably absent words in BIS 2025 5901, the official docket number of this request. Nowhere in this request is China mentioned, nor is country of origin or the usual suspects, DJI and Autel, mentioned. But I'd bet dollar to donuts, that's exactly who the BIS had in mind when they put this out. And the timing is rather interesting. Mr. Joe Bartlett is now under Secretary of Bureau of Industry and Security, and that is the agency that published this request. If Mr. Bartlett sounds familiar, this is why. He was the National Security Advisor to Representative Elise Stefanik from September 21 to January 23. He then became Skydio's Director of Federal Policy from November 23 until January of 25. After the election, he joined BIS in January this year and became the Undersecretary in June. And on July 1st, the BIS initiated an investigation to determine the effects on the national security of imports of unmanned aircraft systems. So these are the questions that this request for information, or let's see, request for public comments is inquiring about. So the criteria for determining effect of imports on national security. It says to determine the effect on the national security of the imports under the article under investigation, the department shall consider the quantity of the article in question or other circumstances related to its import. With regard for the requirements of national security, the department shall also consider the following. Number one, domestic production needed for projected national defense requirements. Number two, the capacity of domestic industries to meet projected national defense requirements. Number three, the existing and anticipated availabilities of human resources, products, raw materials, production equipment, and facilities, and other supplies and services essential to the national defense. The growth requirement of domestic industries to meet national defense requirements, and the supplies and services, including the investment, exploration, and development of necessary to assure such growth, and any other relevant factors. And it also says, in recognition of the close relation between the strength of our national economy and the capacity of the United States to meet national security requirements, the department shall also, with regard to the quantity, availability, character, and uses of the imported article under investigation, consider the following: the impact of foreign competition on the economic welfare of any domestic industry essential to our national security, the displacement of any domestic products causing substantial unemployment, decrease in the revenues of government, loss of investment or specialized skills and productive capacity, or other serious effects, and any other relevant factors that are causing or will cause a weakening of our national economy. So the questions that they are looking for answers on: number one, the current and projected demand for UAS and their parts and components in the United States. So number one, he has some bullet points in here, and the bullet points in here are to help you, help everybody kind of formulate some ideas for a response to this request for public comment. One of the bullet points he states, there's no proven correlation between ready-to-fly drones made outside the United States and national security. He says, until we have proof of any security connection between commercial and recreational use of non-domestic drones and national security, this is a concern in search for an actual issue. For non-defense use cases, there is no ongoing connection between civilian use and national security. So, number one, I mean, if you look at the question, the current and projected demand for UAS and their parts and components in the United States, the drone industry continues to grow. There's more and more, not just recreational users, but commercial uses for drones, and including a big surge. And if Rob were here, he could probably speak to this, in drones as first responders. Delivery drones have become more and more prolific, despite my own misgivings on the project as a whole. But I mean, the current projected demand is huge. I mean, within the United States. So, any comments on this one, guys?
Couple of things. So, if we can, Alex and I spoke to this organization with respect to the prior request for comments, and we are the group FPVFC is assembling our own set of comments, and we take we work closely with Vic. We respect his view on this. We're taking a view of trying to educate the BIS difference between FPV and video drones. Also, the whole overall idea that recreational is so important from an innovation perspective, as well as the pool of resources for pilots as well as technicians. And finally, that the banning of DJI and Autel are banning technologies that are viable, and we do not have good alternatives. So, the tariff is effectively an embargo, at 30% and will destroy industries. And we're asking commerce to please consider that consider the timing that we need time to build a U.S. industry that's capable and viable at least as much as DJI is today. So a slightly different approach, and we will have the FPVFC set of comments to each of these penned and out the door within a couple of days. I've got a draft completed, so a little different take from where Vic is going.
Yeah, it is a little bit different, but some of the parts that I did want to highlight. Question number 2: the extent to which domestic production of UAS and their parts and components can meet domestic demand. And he kind of hits the nail on the head here. It's not at all. I mean, we don't have the ability for raw materials. We don't have. I would disagree that we don't have the mechanical and computer engineers to design the drones. I feel like we have a very rich diversity of that here in the United States, but we don't have the facilities and machining for it for a lot of these parts. And so, and then
the big one there that makes me nervous is batteries, because batteries are not only the mining capability, but the refining, and it's a highly toxic process. And right now, lithium polymer, lithium ion batteries are sourced almost exclusively from China.
Yeah. And the other one that kind of cracks me up a little bit is question number 5: the impact of foreign government subsidies and predatory trade practices on the competitiveness of UAS and their parts and components industry in the United States. So, obviously, I'm not going to go into some of that, but that Vic does. But the funny thing is China is geared up and tooled for this, and they're doing this production en masse, right? They're literally, when they have facilities dedicated, companies and businesses dedicated to producing these things, they can offer it for a cheaper price. Number one, they're not having to import the materials. And number 2, they're just tooled for it and can manufacture these things by the thousands, if not millions, and keep those prices low and basically sell for less than what we can here in the United States.
Yeah, I agree. When you've got a scale, and they've DJI again has over 80% market share, and that magnitude of scale allows you to amortize your costs over an enormous base. And you have clout in terms of procurement when you have that level of market share. So they don't really need any predatory practices.
No.
They offer a leadership technology at a reasonable price, and we don't see any evidence of predatory practices.
Yeah, I agree with Vic here that this question it's a leading question trying to give credibility to these false claims, which are just not true.
Yeah. So some of the other questions, just food for thought. And like Dave said, we have our own that we'll be pushing out. But just reading through some of the other questions, the role of foreign supply chains, particularly of major exporters, in meeting the United States demand for UAS and their parts and components. And realistically, we do rely on Chinese companies right now. Let's see, the concentration of U.S. imports and UAS and their parts and components from a small number of suppliers or foreign nations and the associated risks. Same, we still rely on China for those things. And if we're not going to import it, then we have to make it. If we can't make it, we have to import it. I mean, it's really a 2-part equation there. Let's see, the economic impact of artificially suppressed prices of UAS and their parts and components. Again, it's another leading question, just like the other one. The potential of foreign nations and companies to weaponize their control over supplies of UAS and their parts and components. We realistically have at this point kind of done it to ourselves with tariffs. We weaponize it ourselves. If we can't get it, if we can't get it, we can't use it. And if we need to get it, it's going to cost us a hell of a lot more money, and it's going to impact the economy. Let's see. The potential for foreign nations and companies to weaponize capabilities or attributes of foreign-built UAS systems and their parts and component. Again, he talks about air gapping. If it's not connected to the internet, you can't gain access to it. And we'll talk about internet connectivity here in another article. But the feasibility of increasing domestic capacity for UAS and their parts and components to reduce import reliance. We need money to do that. We got to have capital to build facilities, to hire people, to people who are wanting to invest in that space. So, I mean, realistically, you can kind of see that this is almost, to use their word, predatory in the way they're asking the questions here. So, review this, review ours when we publish it, and obviously we'll push that out as soon as we do publish that. For you guys to jump in and make your own comments. I mean, this is I don't see a positive future coming out of this if we don't react to this. You guys agree?
Absolutely, yeah. And our take is, please make comments that are productive, that contribute to the thoughts. If you're, don't do anything profane. Don't don't just dump
Be
on.
professional.
Yeah, that's where we think. As I've said, Alex and I had a meeting with the BIS. They asked great questions. They had follow-up questions. So, are we going to sway the day and have great responses because of that? We don't think so. But maybe we've opened their eyes that recreational is important, and we don't want to screw over the cohort that's larger than the commercial and mess up technicians, future resources for pilots, as well as innovation. And recreation has been a source of innovation across the drone industry. So maybe we can make those points stick.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. So this is coming from the Insurance Journal, not a regular supply of drone news, but drone crashes.
A good thing.
Right. Drone crashes, security threats have states demanding power to take them down. So while authorities were desperately trying to save people from the deadly 4th of July floods in Kerr County, Texas, a private drone collided with a search and rescue helicopter and forced it to make an emergency landing. One of the latest incidents in a trend of uncrewed aerial vehicles flying into restricted zones. In January, a drone crashed into a firefighting aircraft battling the Palisades wildfire in California, according to federal prosecutors, damaging the plane's wing. Now, state governors and industry experts are calling on Congress to give state and local officials more leeway to control rogue drones, an issue that will be in the spotlight as the U.S. prepares to host the 2026 FIFA World Cup and the 2028 Summer Olympics. The Departments of Homeland Security, Justice, Defense, and Energy have the legal authority to intercept and disable illicit drones, but state and local law enforcement don't have the authority to take them down. Local officials can maybe find the operator and ask them to politely land the drone, Michael Robbins, Chief Executive Officer of the Association for Uncrewed Vehicle Systems International, said during a House subcommittee hearing on drone security this week. But until Congress expands their detection and mitigation powers, law enforcement is left without many tools right now. U.S. lawmakers need to expand the ability of states to counter the threat themselves, New York Governor Kathy Hochul said in a July 8th letter to President Donald Trump, citing next year's World Cup and other potential targets. Granting authority to improve detection and mitigation is no longer a matter of preference. It's a matter of urgent concern. So it says state, local, tribal, and territorial agents need the authority to counter UAVs. According to Tom Walker, CEO of Drona, which has worked with governments on UAV-related training and operational support, policy development, mission coordination, and integrated airspace management. We have both good and bad actors in the air, and right now we can't identify which is which, he said during this week's hearing. These are not hypothetical threats. They're happening now in active emergency zones and putting lives at risk. Last month, Trump signed an executive order establishing a task force to address drone threats and directing the FAA to establish a process to restrict drone flights over critical infrastructure. The FAA uses its remote identification system. It's not theirs. It's it's everybody else's. The FAA didn't develop it. To integrate UAVs into the national airspace system, a network of controlled and uncontrolled airspace and facilities. Remote ID requires registered drones to transmit their identification and location using a broadcast signal, but it's subject to interference and signal loss, said Ryan Wallace, professor of aeronautical science at Embry-Riddle. It would be extremely costly to deploy a network that's going to cover the U.S. or sometimes even large areas with any sort of ability to detect all of these. So I'm going to skip from that to this next article, which is coming. It's an opinion piece by Tom Walker, who is the CEO of DroneUp. And he almost takes I'll read through it, but he almost takes a very negative approach to his own industry. It's very strange. So drones have rapidly evolved from backyard novelties into critical components of today's infrastructure and now into one of the fastest growing threats to our national security. As a CEO of one of the nation's largest drone technology companies and a former naval officer, I've seen firsthand how powerful these tools can be. I've also seen how dangerous they are when left unregulated. They become liabilities capable of disruption, destruction, and danger.
Yeah, because regulations are going to stop all those things.
Right? Exactly. Just days ago, amid a deadly flash floods in Texas, a private drone collided with a rescue helicopter during an active life-saving mission. The crash forced the crew to land, grounding a critical asset in the middle of an unfolding emergency.
Which was already against regulations to be flying there.
Yeah, 100%. In the chaos of unspeakable tragedy, a single uncoordinated drone puts lives at risk and halted the very efforts meant to save them. Incidents like this are entirely preventable with proper airspace coordination. In the first quarter of this year, the FAA reported over 400 illegal drone incursions near U.S. airports, which is a 25% increase from the same period in 2024. Drone incursions into U.S. military airspace have reached unprecedented levels, and the trend is only accelerating. By the way, both of those already have regulations in place for them. At military bases across the country, 350 unauthorized drone flights were recorded last year alone. These aren't harmless mistakes. They are persistent, coordinated, in some cases hostile. That's taking a leap there. These incidents are not isolated. They're escalating. Drones have been used to smuggle contraband into prisons, surveil energy facilities and ports, and even collide with manned aircraft, narrowly avoiding catastrophe. As drones become faster, cheaper, and easier to operate, our systems for detecting, coordinating, and responding remain fractured, outdated, and dangerously inadequate. Let's see. The root of the problem is not technological. The solutions exist today. What we lack now is a national framework, a unified real-time system to track, manage, and respond to low-altitude traffic. We need a flight information exchange that allows law enforcement, regulators, and operators to see what's flying, where it is, and who's responsible. We need cryptographically secure digital credentials that link drones, their pilots, and their missions to prevent spoofing. And we need remote ID signals that can't be manipulated. Right now, too many decisions depend on disconnected sensors, slow approval, and guesswork. We must fuse radar, RF, and acoustic data into a single surveillance picture. The FAA needs to establish a national mission priority table to ensure emergency flights aren't delayed or grounded. Most urgently, Congress must expand counter unmanned aircraft system authority to include local law enforcement before the current federal authority sunsets this September. So apparently we just need, massive amounts of surveillance. So my question in all of this is, who's going to distinguish what's a good actor versus a bad actor? Is a bad actor somebody who goes out and flies a parking garage? Is a bad actor somebody who goes out and is flying in a park? I know I'm being extreme here, but at the same time, who's going to decide what is good and what is bad, and who needs to be surveilled and who doesn't? And of course, my two thoughts here.
Mr. Walker, of course, is speaking loudly out of both sides of his mouth. First, he says that we can't identify who the bad actors are, and then he cites, chapter and verse on what the statistics are in terms of all the nefarious incursions. So, we've read a lot of articles. We've had numerous FOIAs. We are very skeptical with respect to what is called an incursion, an incident. So the data analysis part of this is not crisp. Yet we do have the technology for identifying every aircraft in the sky down to very small drones. So we do know that we can find them, but what do we do with them? And the idea that these Mr. Walker, as well as Mike Robbins, AUVSI, and the third individual who is testifying to a congressional subcommittee, they were all like, "Yeah, we need to have a digital capability." Largely, what they were talking about has been discussed for over 10 years in the unmanned traffic management system. We know that in the 2024 Reauthorization Act for the FAA, network remote ID is discussed no fewer than 5 times as a mandate. That's a key element of UTM. So again, much of what is talked about is either existing regulation or in the works. And so if it's not happening fast enough, okay. However, this needs to be approached carefully because the FAA's current model for unmanned traffic management is to delegate it all to individual and separate private entities. And right now, that's an anathema to the way that the ATC operates, well and effectively as a single federal organization. So lots of holes in what Mr. Walker is putting forward, as well as the congressional testimony. There is, each of these companies have something to gain from local law enforcement taking on counter UAS, and we're also have been over the point that it's going to take a lot of funding to train and properly educate folks at a local level to be able to take out once they've identified a nefarious drone.
Yeah, I just feel like he's being combative to his own. I mean, he's really just like trying to stick it to people who would be his future employees, right? I mean, it just makes no sense. And I'm a bit of a paranoid. I'm not about extra surveillance where there doesn't need to be. I feel like that's already prevalent enough, and in any stretch in that level of power is too much to me. And everybody's nodding their heads right now, but call me a paranoid, but apparently we're all paranoid here. But yeah, I don't want to be harassed by some know-nothing local who, doesn't know the technology, doesn't know what I'm doing, can't make a decision based on some vague interpretation of what unsafe flight is when, I'm completely in control. These guys are completely in control of their aircraft and not a danger to anybody. So one of the things, and I'm going to skip back to Vic's article here real quick. We are a country of laws telling us what we can't do, not a list of decrees telling us what we can do. And realistically, tell us what we can do, and let us do those things. And don't be vague with anything, but also don't be crushing with everything else. All of these things that he cites in here in this article already have existing regulations on. So I don't know. I mean, we have laws in place for speeding. People still speed. It happens. Are people deliberately being a-holes because they speed? No. So it happens every day. I mean,
I'd be really curious to know what would happen if, let's say, someone was flying a drone in a really stupid, reckless manner, or whatever, flying in like over forest fires while planes were trying to put them out or something, and a local police officer somehow took that drone out of the air. Like, obviously, they're not allowed to do that, but what would actually happen to them if they did?
Probably nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that would
That's
be
what
my
my guess
guess,
would
is
be.
probably nothing. So
Yeah,
do
I
we
mean,
really need regulations to say that they can do that?
and
Well,
realistically, like
the
if
drone
you
pilot might sue them at that point, but that's the only thing that would probably happen. The drone pilot would sue them, but then the drone pilot's still the stupid one because they're flying where they shouldn't. So
yeah, I mean, it's just and realistically, local law enforcement can do a hell of a lot more than just politely ask them to land. Like, let's be real here. I mean,
Yeah,
so
if you take the example of in upstate New York, it was 2 summers ago, um, an individual from the Boston area was flying in over a lake, and he was tracking, not flying directly overhead, but tracking a number of outboard boats, and then he made the mistake of he landed his drone, and state police as well as DEC started questioning him, and he made the mistake of being a jerk, and he was giving the state police a lot of lip. That's not a smart approach to take. So he was written up for reckless endangerment, which is absolutely legitimate for these officers to do. So just as Josh says, they do a lot more than just ask you politely to land. So this guy was in a world of hurt from a legal perspective, and he recognized that he made a big mistake. And so, as we often say, don't be that guy. And we quote and attribute that to Greg Revenue of Pilot Institute.
yeah. All right. So up next, we have U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean P. Duffy announces improvements to recreational aviation safety, expansion of light sports sector. U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean P. Duffy announced today a new Federal Aviation Administration rule to remove outdated regulations that have impeded innovation and safety in the growing recreational light sport aviation sector. Why did they get all the love? I can't think of a better place than at the largest general aviation air show in the U.S. to announce that we're unleashing American ingenuity. This new rule
UAS is mentioned in it.
This new rule will promote better design, safer materials, and upgraded technology in the recreational aviation sector. Oh, geez. Lost my screen here. Let's see. Let's see. Lost where I was. Okay, this landmark rule aims to increase the availability of safe, modern, and affordable aircraft for recreational aviation, flight training, and certain aerial work, said FAA Administrator Brian Bedford. It enables industry to meet the growing demand for more versatile aircraft with higher performance capabilities while maintaining high standards of safety. For over a decade, pilots around the country, including myself, have been advocating for Mosaic to become a reality. This is a huge win that will fundamentally transform general aviation. It will ensure light sport aircraft are more versatile and accessible, foster innovation in the light sport aircraft category, and make it easier for more people to become pilots. That's why I included a requirement in the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2024 for the FAA to issue this final rule. I want to thank Secretary Duffy and Deputy Administrator Rocheleau for carrying out this requirement so promptly. I commend them for their commitment to improving our aviation system, from modernizing the air traffic control system and boosting the hiring of air traffic controllers to moving forward with actions that are critical to general aviation in America, said U.S. Representative Sam Graves. What it does, the modernization of special airworthiness certification final rule makes sweeping changes to the light sport aircraft category and to the sport pilot privileges, expanding a safe alternative to experimental amateur-built aircraft by removing the weight limit, which allows for more safety features and safety design flexibility, encompassing aircraft with higher speeds and more seats and retractable landing gear, allowing for new types of propulsion and modern avionics, allowing aerial work with light sport aircraft such as infrastructure and forest inspections, photography, filming, and agricultural surveillance, allowing pilots operating under sport pilot privileges to fly a broader range of aircraft, and reducing regulatory requirements by expanding the types of aircraft that qualify as LSA and the types of aircraft pilots can fly under sport pilot privileges. So, Dave, you've downloaded this document, and it is lengthy, correct?
It is. It's about 700 pages or thereabouts, and it's this is a very significant piece of regulation. If you think about, well, what's LSA or light sport aircraft, and so when we would complain about, wow, I can go fly a paraglider, I don't need a license, I don't need to go through all the hoops that I do to fly Part 107, but I can go get my paraglider and just go into the air. And that's a fact. So what this regulation appears to do is set up different categories of light sport aircraft and additional regulation. There appears to be no medical requirement, which is stunning. I hope I read that wrong. But they increase the number of passengers that you can carry, and so it's a whole series of expansion of these small and experimental aircraft. And it also appears to change type certification, which is the FAA's process to approve the airframe and the power plant of an aircraft. And it can take decades to do that. It's the single issue that Amazon has had, as well as the other drone delivery companies, that it's such an arduous process to get type certification approval from the FAA that it takes years to get anything new into the air. So this appears to be a milestone regulation to make that a lot easier. So as we'll dig through it, we'll see what's happening. Where it does appear that, so if we were to say, oh, so now I don't need any pilot's license, I don't need to do anything, and I can fly a bigger, faster, more dangerous aircraft with more people on board. That does not appear what this is. It does appear that along with the additional loosening of rules, there is training required and certification required, and that to us certainly seems entirely appropriate. So more to digest of the 700 pages. It does look like a positive. Also commentary that the view is that next up from the FAA would be the BVLOS NPRM, Beyond Visual Line of Sight Notice for Public Rulemaking.
Alex, you said the Mosaic does mention UAS. Do you know in what capacity?
It's in reference to a comment from asking if UAS was included in one of the type cert definitions. So, because I got the notification from my Federal Register notification where for my keyword of unmanned aircraft, I'm like, oh, it's in here, and then I looked and it's like, oh no, it's just it's just replying to comments saying no, unmanned aircraft is not included in this rule. Man, maybe they try to sneak BVLOS in here.
Right.
Yeah, that'd probably be twice as long as the document itself.
Yeah, right. I think they got they cited the number of comments they had. I think
1,300.
Right.
It's tiny compared to.
We anticipate that BVLOS will be much larger than remote ID, which is 53,000.
I don't know. I don't think it will get more than remote ID, but we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the number of people flying these types of aircraft much smaller than the number of people who are flying drones. So again, comments are feasible to be a lot less, but at the same time, good for them. Hopefully, we don't see the continued tightening of regulations here on UAS. So, all right. Last up on the docket for today, AUVSI. They're almost becoming notorious at this point, I think. Announced as a blue UAS recognized assessor as DIU adopts green UAS certification pathway. So recent federal actions, including Executive Order 14307, Unleashing American Drone Dominance, and the Secretary of Defense's July 10th memorandum on streamlining drone procurement, have made clear the national priority to accelerate deployment of secure uncrewed systems. These policies call for streamlined acquisition, the rapid fielding of Group 1 and 2 drones, and expanded access to trusted sourcing pathways. In support of these goals, the Defense Innovation Unit has taken 2 important steps to expand access to secure NDAA-compliant drones. Green UAS certification, developed by the Association for Uncrewed Vehicle Systems International, has been officially adopted as a recognized pathway to achieving Blue UAS cleared status. Effective immediately, all platforms that have successfully completed the Green UAS certification process are now designated Blue UAS cleared and are eligible for procurement by the U.S. Department of Defense. AUVSI has been designated as a recognized third-party assessor under the Blue UAS program, authorized to support future certifications and participate in the development of updated assessment criteria. This is a meaningful step for the broader drone ecosystem, said Michael Robbins, president and CEO of AUVSI. The ability to achieve Blue UAS cleared status through Green UAS certification provides an immediate standards-based pathway for secure platform adoption. At the same time, work is underway to develop a unified assessment process that will support direct Blue UAS certification through approved third-party assessors. These efforts reflect a shared focus on accelerating access to trusted, domestically sourced systems. Importantly, Blue UAS cleared status also qualifies platforms for inclusion on General Services Administration schedules, a critical enabler for broader access and streamlined procurement across the federal government. My quick take on this is probably, I minimized that and that went away. Sorry about that. My quick take on all of this is going to have similar kind of vibes with the firearms industry. And I'm going to just point this out real quick. So when a big portion of your business relies on, number one, procuring stuff that is made in America and for sale directly to the U.S. government, costs on those units are going to skyrocket because companies understand that the U.S. government's going to buy it because they have to. And when those prices are set, those prices are also going to be the prices or similar to what a consumer is going to pay for them. So when things get on NDA compliant or things become Blue UAS, Green UAS certified, the prices of those components are going to artificially skyrocket, which doesn't bode well for the end user consumer who is not flying these things for government use, if we're just going out and having fun. So this is the same across the firearms industry and several other industries, anything that's related to government and defense supply. So, you know, when you're like, great, these things are certified, they're going to be made in America. Great, the government's going to buy them. Oh crap, that flight controller is now going to cost me $500 instead of $75. You know, because that's what the government will pay for them, because they have to have them. So that's my 2 cents. Any thoughts across the board?
Yeah. AUVSI is largely a governmental affairs organization. I don't know if they have any engineers on staff. We know for sure that they are absolutely anti-recreational UAS. They are sometimes pro-commercial UAS, but it's usually limited to large enterprise. And so we look at this, you know, with a really jaundiced view. It's AUVSI getting a step up on Green UAS certification, an opportunity to make money. It's troubling to me. Now, the one shining light here is we've worked a bit with the DIU, the Defense Innovation Unit, and happily, every individual we've worked with is spot on. They know their business, they're pilots, they understand aviation, they understand regulations, they understand supply chain. These are smart people. So that's hopefully a good check as we go through. But they've already approved this with AUVSI. So what are we doing?
My worry with this is for groups that want to make their UAS a part of the blue list, that the DIU is going to more so say, hey, go through this process, and the DIU is going to be a little harder to go through. So it kind of forces you to go through AUVSI system instead of just going straight to the DIU, and cost manufacturers more because then they'll have to send money to AUVSI.
AUVSI then sort of becomes this gatekeeper on who
Exactly.
doesn't become certified.
That's where I see a possible issue with it. It's like, oh, you gotta pay up to play versus just go through the DIU process.
Yep.
It's the Balrog on the bridge for those who are Lord of the Rings fans. It's insane. And I feel like all I've done today is rant. I'm sorry, guys, but obviously strong feelings on a lot of this stuff. But
well, look at it this way: we didn't mention the Epstein files
until now. So, guys, there's a lot of interesting things going on in the industry right now. Definitely, if you can, send some comments in on the BIS request for comments. We will post our take on that here in the next couple of days.
Comments are due August 6th.
Yep. So
very, very, very short turnaround. The Federal Register release was July 16 with a deadline of August 6. So very short turnaround.
Yeah. So get engaged with it. This is definitely a problem. The U.S. doesn't have the capability at the current point in time, and probably wouldn't for the next 5 to 10 years, to even remotely start to catch up to China at this point. So it's our parts are going to start coming in short supply if things continue down this path, if that makes sense. So yeah. All right, Dave, I'll hand it over to you. I'll stop ranting for the evening. You got anything, brother?
I don't. We touched all the topics that were top of my list. Thanks, and it's not so much a rant. These are important topics. They're things we're working on. Thanks to folks who are members of FPVFC. This is one of the primary things we're working on. And stay tuned for the comments that we'll be working on when it comes out for the notice for public rulemaking for beyond visual line of sight. That's a really big one for us in the UAS industry.
Yep. Alex, you got anything tonight?
Next week, I'll be attending the AUVSI AAM and drone symposium that they're going to be having in DC. So it's their policy symposium. It used to be partnered with the FAA, but they're not partnered with the FAA anymore for this event. So we'll see what's kind of covered and see if we can get more information on some of this kind of stuff that AUVSI is putting out there. So
great.
Yeah,
that'd be great. All right, cool. Best of luck over there. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in a room with those people, I feel like, at this point. All right, Dan, what do you got?
As Meat said in the YouTube channel, we have a mole. Talking about Alex AUVSI.
Yes, we do.
I've got nothing new this week. The only drone related stuff that I came across this week was all military drone related. So not something, not positive, not things we typically cover on our.
Sounds like a blast.
Oh, geez. Oh, jeez. Good times, guys. All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up for this evening. Thank you for joining us and listening to me bag on people, I guess. And appreciate you being here. And we'll see you again in another 2 weeks. And yeah, go out and fly something. Go have some fun.
We're here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Safely.
Have a good evening. Safely.
Bye.
Fly so high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.